Well, I think the problem with people that try to understand Israel and Palestine is that they try to understand it from 1972 or from 2005 or 89 or 67. And the problem is that we have to go way back to the beginning, to the Balfour Declaration, to the creation of Zionism within Europe at that time, where we have to face the facts that anti-Semitism was a rampant thing in Europe. And it also exposes a veritable truth about that scenario, something that a lot of my elder Jewish friends explained to me, and they were very poignant in saying so, that the natural enemy of the Jewish people has never been Middle Eastern people, has never been other Semites. It's always traditionally been, for 2,000 years, insane, imperialistic people from Europe that have consistently genocided, taken advantage, thrown out, persecuted, you know, and that's something that happened through all the Middle Ages, whether we're talking about Germany, France, Spain, and all of their charters, from the Alhambra Decree to the Code Noir. I think that it's important for us to examine these things, because then we start to talk about Britain's role in it. So I think we have to talk about the Balfour Declaration. We have to talk about a series of other things that took place before we can even discuss what's happening now in Palestine. But obviously, it's not a war, you know, it's a massacre. If I stand behind you and I smash you in the head with a bat, we didn't have a fight, my brother. You know what I mean? I assaulted you, I attacked you. And I think that there's severe underreporting about the proportionality of what happens. So, I mean, I think that obviously there's a media bias in the UK and there's a media bias in America over the issue. And I'm sorry that we don't have a more open discussion about it. And I think the problem is because when a lot of people start talking about this, they're accused of anti-Semitism. And I'm gonna say something very honest, that you know what the problem of accusing every single person of who has differences with the foreign and the domestic policy of Israel of anti-Semitism, the problem with that is that there are anti-Semites out there. There are people who are Holocaust deniers. There are people who are rampantly racist. And if you tell every single person who questions your politics that you're in the same boat with those people, then how do you know your enemies from the people who simply want to get somewhere better in the world? You know, and I think that's unfortunately what's going on right now. I think it's also sad to see that the left is in a complete disarray in the Middle East and in Israel. You know what I mean? So you have right-wing policies and draconian laws that are run rampant to the point where people are talking about genociding Palestinian people. And when we talk about genocide, we don't have to go far back into history to see that being done to the people who are in Israel now, and that's a shame. And I think that without that sort of historical context, where do we go as a people? Where do we go as a human race? You know, because that's a very big issue, not just for them, but it's going to be in the future when people look back at the world and say, how could everyone have simply let this happen? How could people have just been quiet when other human beings were being murdered? And you had these quasi-intellectual excuses that never really add up when you actually put them to the test. So I would just say that before we start talking about what's happening in Gaza and that massacre that's going on now, I advise everybody to look up the history of how it was created. Britain had no more right to give that land to them than I have the right to give away, you know, Essex to Mongolia. You know what I mean? I think that it's just sad that there's no historical perspective to that.